Hello, welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, welcome. My name is Leanne and I am the face behind Small Gestures Vintage and Crafts. I am so excited to be back. It's good to be back. This is my first video of 2025. If you follow my channel, you may know we were gone for the whole month of December, out to Arizona visiting the kiddos and family and friends, and had a fantastic time. But it has been really good to get back and really get back into my element. So on this week's video, I'm taking some of the things that I found out there. And if you saw my last video that I did post while we were in Arizona, I found a lot. So I'm taking some of those things and upcycling them and turning them into some really cool, what I think really cool organization pieces. It's the new year. Creators, especially, I think people that have a rather large inventory, like myself, love to get organized the beginning of the year. It's a fresh start for everything. So I wanted to create some beautiful pieces that will work well for organizing. And if you stick around, I'm also going to give you a sneak peek into my spaces. It's really kind of scary. That need to be organized, because you always see like this behind me, but you don't see what's on the other side. So I have spaces that need to be organized. So stick around. Let me know which one you think I should tackle first, because I actually have 3 spaces that could definitely use some some organizational touches. So stick around. First though, I'm gonna tell you, I'm just gonna go into story time really quick, so just indulge me. Mother's Day of 2020, our daughter came to me and said, "Mom, can you teach me how to sew?" So I schlepped out the sewing machine that my mom taught me how to sew on. I think the thing weighed 15 pounds, you know, it was a honker. And I taught her the basics, because I am not an advanced seamstress, sewist, whatever the word is. So I taught her the basics and she like ran with it. And she has found her passion of quilting. And this Christmas, I got the best gift from her. I say we got the best gift. Each year for our family Christmas, we do white elephants, and she would always quilt a Christmas tree skirt, and that was fought over for the last 2 years. And try as hard as I might, I never won the white elephant. So this year I was blessed with my own tree skirt. Just bear with me. Look at this. This is not Nutcracker fabric. Look at that. She pieced all of these nutcrackers on this massive tree skirt. Look, it's incredible. Look what she did. And then it's plaid on the backside. She is so freaking incredibly talented. I am just blown away. So I just had to share the amazing things that my daughter did. Look at that. It's just, oh, look, just incredible. So I love you, Caitlin. Thank you so much. So thank you for indulging me and sticking around for my show and tell. I think I've covered everything, so if we're ready, let's just do it. For project number 1 this week, I picked up this handmade wooden board in Arizona. I paid a whopping $2 for it, and I knew I wanted to convert it into like hanger. I have some little black hooks that I had thrifted off of a sign, and I wanted to turn it into something that you could hang your keys from. So I didn't have any dowels to fit those holes, so I just took some skewers and cut them up. And then there's a different color that you see on the board because I gave it a good scrub down, and I just wanted to make sure that those little skewer pieces would fit good in there. So I taped the back of the holes and then flipped it over. This is the back side. And then I flipped it over and put some glue in there, as you can see, some good old wood glue, and then stuck my little skewers down and hammered them down good and tight, and then just let them dry. So after the dowels were dry and set up, then I went in and cut the tops off with this little Japanese saw. And no, I didn't sand it yet. I took some Durham's hard putty, water putty, and I love this for a wood filler. It takes a little longer to set up, and it does shrink down a little bit, but I really like this because it's a powder, so you really can mix it to the consistency that you need. And I've just got some little spots in there that I wanted to fill in, so I wanted to make it kind of runny. So I just added a little bit of water and then stirred it up and poured it into the little holes that I had, so we would fill in any extra spaces. So the wood glue or the wood putty is dried. I took a sander to it, and I do still have a couple spaces that didn't quite fill in, but I'm okay with that because, like I said, they're going to be covered with some little black hooks. So I just took my sanding sponge to smooth out the edges that I couldn't get to with my hand sander. And then because this is raw wood, even though I'm using a darker color, I just wanted to give it a little extra protection, so I'm going in with a couple of coats of Dixie Belle Boss, and this blocks odor, stains, bleed through, and you're supposed to let it sit for 24 hours. I did not do that. In all honesty, I'm coming in with a dark color, and this is Fusion in Woodwick, and Fusion has a built-in primer, so I felt safe enough in just going in without it letting sit for the 24 hours, but I put a couple of coats on that and then came in with some milk paint. This is Sweet Pickins milk paint in the color Truffle, and you will see me very carefully trying to paint the edges because my goal was to leave the back the brown color, but that is not what ended up happening. And you can see with milk paint, when you put a first coat on, it looks pretty scary. It's thin, it's streaky, and it just doesn't look the greatest. But once you get the second coat, and sometimes even a third coat, as in my case, the coverage is just, it looks great. Everything really kind of evens out, so there's no need for panic when using milk paint. This is after drying the second coat. You can see all that yummy crackle in there. And this, I've gone ahead and put another coat on, a third coat, and we're drying it again. And I love milk paint because you never know what you're going to get. You never know if it's going to chip, if it's going to crackle, how much. It all depends on the surface, how well it adheres. It really is, you know, you're really taking, not a gamble, but it's fun because you don't know. You just have to roll with it because you don't know what it's going to end up looking like. I absolutely love how this board came out with the milk paint. Look at that crackle. I just love it. So I'm going to put a transfer on, but before I do the transfer, I wanted to do a stamp. And this is a stamp by Redesign. It's called Imperial Crackle. And this is the first time that I have used this stamp, so you want to season it. So I just have a 220 grit sandpaper, and you go in one direction, and then you go, 90 degrees, and go the other way. And so I'm trying to, it just kind of opens up the pores in the plastic a little bit so it accepts the ink a little easier. So I figured out where I wanted to lay it, and I swear when I was stamping this, I was thinking, boy, I really might need to re-ink my pad because it did not, I swear to you, it did not look like hardly any ink was coming out, but you can see in the video, there's a lot of ink on there, and you can see my reaction when I lift this stamp. It was like, whoa, that's really dark, but it all worked out. So I just used some black Stays-On ink, and the ink felt dry, so I was going to sand it and distress it, and I could see that the ink was smudging, so obviously it wasn't completely dry. So I brought out a wipe, and it distressed it perfectly. It really took off a lot of that excess ink and kind of got me back down to what I was originally planning. I just wanted something nice in the background behind the stamp, not something that stood out so much. Happy little accident. The transfer that I'm using is by IOD, and it's called Wallflower, and I generally get my IOD supplies from Heather at Create Your Own Cozy, so I will link her website in the video description so you can reach out to her for your IOD needs. And as you can see, the transfers went down beautifully, and I did not seal this milk paint because I wanted to use a dark wax to get in between the cracks and the crevices, and of course if I used a wax, then the transfer's not going to stick. So they say that you should seal your paint before you use the transfers. I took a chance, and I was very happy and very fortunate that the transfers adhered beautifully to the paint without it being sealed first. Normally I don't mind the chipping of the milk paint. However, that was really the only spot that there was some significant chipping, and it kind of stood out to me. So I just decided to go ahead and cover it up with these transfers. After this transfer is completely released from the carrier sheet, then I go back in with the sheet and rub it down really, really well. You want to make sure all of the edges are completely sealed. There's no wrinkles, there's no bumps or bubbles or anything like that. Just use some good pressure and make sure that it is fully adhered to your surface. And you can see the back. I did end up painting the back with milk paint too, and it's kind of hard to tell, but the back of it, there's very little or very fine cracks, and I just let it air dry, whereas the front, I used a heat gun, and the cracks were much more pronounced. So depending on, you can control a little bit of the look that you're gonna get by whether or not you use heat when you dry. And I'm coming in with the dark oil wax in both directions so I can make sure that I get deep into the cracks really, really well. And we're gonna cover the back and then let it sit just for a couple of minutes and then wipe it off. I wanted to give it just a little extra protection, so I have some DIY clear wax, and I scooped out some wax onto the lid because wax can work like an eraser, and I knew it would probably take off some of the dark wax off of the surface. That still leaves it down in the crevices and in the cracks, but I didn't want to contaminate my wax by dipping my wax brush into the main container, so I always scoop it out and work with it from the lid. But I put a layer of the clear wax again and then went back in and buffed that in really well and buffed off the excess of the clear, and then did the same on the front. I thought I had recorded it, but alas, I did not. But you can see the little black hooks off to the left there. I just wanted something little. I had thrifted those in with another sign a long time ago, and I just wanted a little organizational piece. I put a hanger on the back that you can hang up to hang your keys, a work lanyard, dog leashes, anything like that to get stuff off of a counter and up onto a wall to clean your surface and organize it just a little bit. My second project was another find from Arizona. In fact, I think all of these are, and it's this black metal mailbox. I got it for $5. And it was in decent shape. One of the side pieces right there in the back, you can tell, is loose. So I pulled out a little bit of CA glue, which is basically just like super glue, and I glued it and then clamped it. And my best advice with CA glue to keep it from clogging up, I have a pin in the tip, but keep it in the refrigerator. If you keep your glue in the refrigerator, it will not dry up in the nozzle. Game changer for me. But anyway, I glued it. After it was all set up, I took it in the tub. I gave it a huge scrubbing all over, and then I initially was going to keep it black, but I decided that I wanted to go with something cleaner. So this is White Swan by DIY, and a lot of my DIY products and paints I also get from Heather. So again, her website will be listed in the comments. And I'm just going in with a couple of coats. I'm painting a couple of coats on, and then the third coat I decide to stipple it on so I don't have any brush strokes in there. Because I'm going white over black, it actually did take about 3.5 coats to completely cover this the way that I wanted. And then, like I said, the last coats, I just stippled it on so I wouldn't have any brush strokes. I'm not a fan of brush strokes, so I will either sand them off or I will stipple the paint so I can avoid them. I prefer a light-handed touch when it comes to distressing, so I'm just coming in with a wipe and a dry shop rag just to distress the edges where it's dented a little bit. I'm distressing it, and just to really give it, you know, a nice worn look. Nothing too drastic, just really something that looks more subtle and realistic. The transfer I decided to use on this one was Whispering Willow by IOD. There's a really pretty design, long floral that kind of wraps over the top. I thought would be perfect for this little piece. And then I can cut it and just extend that design down there on the bottom portion. Before I did the transfer on this one, I did go in with Big Top and give it a coat and let it dry thoroughly before I applied the transfer. Because it was over metal, I just didn't want to take a chance of lifting up any of the paint. So this got a coat of Big Top first. And then I have my little micro applicator that comes in handy anytime I get little fuzzies in my paint, which sometimes happens when I have two little dogs running around in my studio. One of the things I love about the IOD transfers are these grid lines. It really helps to line it up. And when you have to make cuts, like I did this one where I cut it in half, you can make sure that you're cutting it evenly across. You know, as I was working on this piece, I was thinking what I would use it for organization. And shoot, it's got the holes in the back. You could hang it on the wall to put your mail in inside, or it even has like those extra holes where it would have hooks at the bottom where you would get your newspaper. I bet could even feed like a phone charger up through the back and use it as like a little hidden charging station. Or you could open it up and put floral in it. I think there's really so many ways that we can elevate our organization more than just you know, some plastic totes from Walmart. Not that there is nothing wrong with plastic totes from Walmart, but when you can keep something out of the landfill and give it a fresh, new look and purpose, I am there for it 100%. My third project this week was this basket, and I have never seen a basket Lazy Susan. So I, of course, picked it up. It was only $3, but it was a huge, dusty mess. So I got busy taking it apart, and I was gonna just, wipe it down with water and a crud cutter and the like. But I found that really wasn't making a dent because of all the little crevices that you have in the basket weave. So I decided to be brave, and I actually just took it to the tub and scrubbed it with soap and water and a scrub brush to get all in there. And I didn't know what was going to happen with a basket because I've never really gotten a basket completely wet and washed it like that. But to my surprise, it came out completely unscathed. So here it is after its bath, and you can see it's all nice and clean now. And there was only one little spot, and I noticed it before I gave it a bath, where the rope detail was kind of coming apart. So I have, in this little applicator bottle with a needle tip, I just have some regular glue. And so I was gluing all of the little pieces of the end of the rope detail, gluing them down so I could go ahead and put some Dark and Decrepit on it. And I wanted to allow the glue time to dry, so I actually put a little piece of tape over it and the little bit of a stir stick, and pushed it down in there so it would hold and dry and not be poking up anymore. And yes, I know this is the underside of the Lazy Susan, but I just didn't want you to see the raw wood underneath. I just wanted to make everything look very uniform and cohesive. That is the recovering perfectionist in me. But if I were able to do this over again, I would have done the Sweet Pickens dark oil wax. I don't think it would have made it as dark. It would have nourished, I think, the basket a little bit more, and it would have been food safe. So you could actually use it to put fruit in or veggies or something like that. I wish I had done that. I unfortunately didn't even think about using the dark oil wax. I kind of have it tucked away with my milk paint, and I think I need to put it out where it's a little more visible so I can remember to use it in instances like this. So here you can see the before and after on the bottom of the basket when I'm adding the Dark and Decrepit to it. This is the last step, and then we're going to put it back together, and this little easy peasy project is all done. So you probably recognize the middle of this shot. However, what you do not see in my intros is all of the stuff that is stacked on the left and right hand side of it. When I don't have any good current organization system. I did at the beginning of the year, and it's time to get back to it and refocus. So this is my storage room, kind of main storage room, work room, where everything gets stacked, if not on the tables in that first room that you saw. And then this is my favorite room, my studio. I love this room. I just need to make it a little more efficient. I have so much stuff. I don't know what I have. And so what do you think I should work on first? So my last project this week is this metal box. I fell in love with the color. I saw this one also in Arizona. It was $12, so I thought that was a little pricey just for a box. And I walked away, but it kept drawing me back. So I finally decided to go back to it, and I opened it up, and it was full of all of these vintage medical supplies. So given what was inside, I decided to go ahead and get it because I loved the blue color, and I just knew that it was going to be perfect for the Elysium transfer. So it was really cool digging through all of this stuff. Look at these. These are glass thermometers. We don't see these anymore, it seems like, with all the little covers. Anything and everything you could need for a first aid kit, a desert survival book. And it's kind of funny because that book talks about what to do in the event of a nuclear disaster. And I figure that this was probably put together initially, and especially that little handbook, in the 1970s, because there is a nuclear plant that was built outside of Phoenix in, I think, 1972 is when construction started. So there's lots of old, and this is a disposable face shield. I have yet to figure out how this works, but that's what it's stamped on there, is a disposable face shield. But I think I'm going to bundle some of these up and go ahead and list them on eBay, these vintage supplies. Some of them are really cool. I mean, this is a splint, just some wire, but it's a splint. I guess it would work in a pinch, right? So I think I'm going to bundle the contents up, and this also went to the bathtub, got a good cleaning, and now I get to lay out the beautiful Elysium transfer. I tell you, I do this to myself. I find these boxes and I want to put these really cool transfers on them. And this one especially was a little bugger. I mean, there's the handle that I'm having to work around, and the latch in the middle, and the little base piece for the handle. And this little one gave me a little bit of grief. And it was also my first project that I've worked on in 5 weeks. So I may have jumped the gun a little bit coming up. You'll see that. But it's for me, so it doesn't matter. Every time I look at this piece, it's going to remind me just to take a step back, slow down, don't rush the process, and just enjoy it. Enjoy the process.
Try to spread my wings so I can fly. Oh,
For whatever reason, this transfer, like occasionally there's these little white dots that are part of the transfer, and they did not want to stick to the metal at all. I don't know why. Everything else, and I find these transfers go down on metal so easily. It makes it, you really don't have to struggle at all with these transfers. They adhere so easily and so quickly onto a surface like metal. You can see where I've cut this transfer apart to use it on another project, and like half of that flower, half of that daisy is missing. So now I need to find some pieces to cover it, because that I just can't leave it like that. I have to make it look finished, I guess. Okay, so here we get to the good part, the handle. I was cutting a little slit right there to go around the handle and peeling off the bottom. I didn't want because transfers stick to metal so well, I didn't want to peel all of the backing off. So I worked kind of bit by bit, and I got the bottom section adhered. And when I went to tear off this middle section so I could continue working up, I'm not sure exactly what I did, but you kind of see my shock when I realized that all of a sudden my transfer is missing. Like, look at that big gap right there. Wait, what? Well, how did that happen? It just, for whatever reason, I don't know, the way that I tore it off, I'm not sure exactly what happened, but the transfer was completely stuck to the backing. So we're just going to work around it and fix it later.
I'll paint with colors and I'll sing until my lungs give out. I'm gonna let the sun shine in today.
So back to my stuck transfer. You can see, yep, it fits perfectly right there. But for whatever reason, like the transfer the top part of it would peel off of the backing, but the bottom section was completely stuck to the backing. I could not get it off for the life of me. So I ended up pulling off little pieces, and we ended with some blue gaps, but you know what? I'm learning to roll with it. I'm getting better about that. Not everything has to be perfect. Nature isn't perfect. I'm not perfect. My work isn't perfect. And I'm getting better about just rolling with it. After I was happy with the placement of all the transfers and I'd filled in all the little spots that I wanted to, then I came back over it with the carrier sheet and burnished everything really, really well. There's some little dents and dings all in this box, and I wanted to make sure there weren't any air bubbles or anything like that. And then transfers need to be sealed, so I am using Dixie Belle flat top coat. I didn't really want any kind of a sheen on this metal box, so I just left it with a flat top coat, and I love it. I think it's so pretty. It's what I envisioned, and I'm not sure exactly what I'm going to store in it, but I'm going to find something. Believe me, I have lots of stuff that needs to be stored, so I will be making good use of this box as long as it is in my possession. Thank you again for joining me this week and for sticking around. Let me know what your favorite project is, and let me know which area of organization you think I should tackle first, because that is definitely on my to-do list. So if you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, and until next time, take care.